there we go.
Yay!
So sorry, you guys.
It's all good. Technology.
You still got on faster than I did.
We've ever done together. Everything else has been so easy, but
Right.
being patient.
No,
Yes.
it's all good. I'm so happy to see you all here. This is so
I
exciting.
know.
Yes.
Having us.
Yes,
Definitely.
thank you.
Well, welcome to everybody that's here with us today. We have Emily Holl and we have Lisa Martin on here, and we are going to be talking to these two amazing sisters who are also my friends and sister friends. So I'm really excited to have them on here today. Emily is the director of the Sibling Support Project, which is an amazing organization. And we have Lisa over here who is going to be hosting our event tomorrow, which is the BIPOC Roundtable. She's also the DC chapter representative and on the board of the Sibling Leadership Network. So I'm going to have them introduce themselves a little bit. Emily, go ahead, go first.
Well, thank you, Janice. Yeah, I mean, I think you really said it all. I'm the lucky person who gets to be the director of the Sibling Support Project located in Seattle, Washington. And first and foremost, I'm a sibling. I have an older brother with developmental disabilities, and he is, you know, really at the center of many of my decisions, both personal and professional. And just don't tell him that because his head will get really big. Already is. And I just, you know, love my work because supporting siblings is something that hits really close to home, obviously. And I get to meet incredible people like you guys. So it's really, really great to be here. And I'm really glad that it's only like 7 o'clock here. Like, you guys get major props.
Sure.
10 o'clock, I would be.
We were just talking about that. The time difference.
Yeah, that's why she said that. But we knew that your energy would bring me back to life at 10 p.m. on the East Coast here. Yeah. So I'm here.
Along with you, so.
Yes. And so, yeah, so I'll quickly introduce myself and then we can dive in. So I'm Lisa Matthews, and I am, as Janice said, the DC chapter representative for the Sibling Leadership Network. I come to this space being a sibling as well. I have a brother with autism, and I have tried navigating the system for so many years and just trying to make sure that he has the supported services that he needs. And then recognizing that there's a bigger community of other siblings that also need support and care. I have connected with a number of different organizations over 10, 15 years now, and have been fortunate to find my way and have a seat at the table to just be able to help make some influence, educate, and just make some good sound decisions to just try to help further along a lot of work that needs to still happen in a very complex disability service system.
Well, you guys are both absolutely amazing, and I love both of y'all. And Emily reminded me that it's International Women's Month, so like we're like these bad women out here like navigating these waters, and I'm so proud of all three of us, honestly. I want to dive in and let's talk about, we're here because tomorrow we have our third event together. And this is the BIPOC Sibling Adult Roundtable. And I just want to get in here and get you guys' opinion on how do we even start this? Like, how did this even become a thing? These three organizations coming together to produce this beautiful, beautiful collective, uncomfortable conversation. Emily.
Emily.
You know,
she eloquently puts it together. She wovens all three of the organizations so great together. So Emily, if you can chime in, and I will jump in.
Sure. I mean, I'm happy to. And, you know, really the story of how this came together is as much Janice's story and Lisa, your story, as it is mine. And it really started with Janice participating in our SibShop facilitator certification training. So one of the things that Sibling Support Project is known for is teaching people all over the world how to run SibShops, which are really fun pedal to the metal events for school age siblings. where siblings can come together, meet other siblings, which is so valuable. Just like parents of kids with disabilities, it's so empowering to meet other parents who are walking a similar path. That's really true for siblings as well. And we want to start when they're young. And so, you know, growing up as a sibling, I didn't know a single other sibling of a person with a disability, and that can be a really lonely place to hang out. So, you know, we do these workshops for kids, and we do these trainings to teach people like Janice, so really dedicated parents and professionals in the field, how to run SibShops. And during that training, one of the things we talk about is our commitment as a SibShop community to ensure that SibShops are inclusive places where we do our work through an anti-racist lens, and where children, all children, including and especially children of color, BIPOC children, feel welcome and respected and appreciated and validated. Validation is such a big part of our journey as siblings, as parents, as people who, any kind of adversity, we're going through any kind of adversity, validation is such a big part of that. And so I talk about this in the training, and after this session, and you never know how it's going to go, right? Because these are comfortable conversations that I think many of us hopefully have been having for years, or maybe thinking about having for years, but really, I think took off across the country and around the world this past summer with the murder of George Floyd, right? And too many others. And so this was really present on all of our minds. Yeah. And as I'm doing this training, you know, I recognize, like, you know, it needs to be said, like this statement needs to be made, that we will not tolerate spaces that are not tolerant and not inviting and not truly inclusive. And so I do this, you know, thing, we talk about it, and then you never know how it's going to go. I mean, half the time in a training, you're trying to read the faces on the screen or around the room, and you're hoping you're getting through, and you're not sure. And Janice sent me this email, and she said, "Thank you so much for bringing up that uncomfortable conversation, because I know that when I was looking for a sib shop for my kids, they didn't always feel welcome there because of the color of their skin." And I just was so heartbroken, honestly, when I heard that, and disappointed, because that's not acceptable. You know, that's not acceptable for any space that's called a sib shop under my watch, to not be a place where Janice's kids or Lisa or anyone, any person of color, does not feel welcome. And so, you know, we just kind of talked about that, and we kind of said, well, like, how can we make that better? Like, what can we do that's different? And I think for many years in the sibling community, which honestly, if we're really honest, the sibling support community mostly looks like me, right? It's mostly white and women, right? Mostly sisters. And we can talk about that, because I want to talk about women too, and International Women's Month, because, you know, the women are the connectors, right? Like, that's why we're all here.
Yes.
But, you know, for many years, and we've talked about how can we make this space more inclusive. But, you know, if the only people who are having that conversation are people who look like me, it's not going to go anywhere. That's a problem. And so anyway, Janice and I mean, Janice, you want to take over the rest? This is just as much.
I mean, Emily, you opened up a door and responded to my email, and just were so inviting, and you listened. And it wasn't like this whole, when I wrote the email, I wasn't sure if I was going to press send. And I'm like, is this something that is should I do this? Should I say something? And I think sometimes we have that fear, and we've been silenced, or just felt like, is this my place to say? And it's like, if somebody has to say it, and your truth is always enough. So the fact that I experienced it was just enough, and me sharing it, and you taking it to heart, and not just being dismissive of it, and like us having like a heart to heart conversation, and like, what can we do? Asking these questions. And it's like, we talked, we brainstormed, and then you were like, I know this awesome sibling who would be perfect to join us. We need to invite her in this conversation. And I'm like, who is this?
That?
She's like, Lisa, I'm going to send you some information about Lisa. And I'm like reading and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to talk to her too. So we all get on a call together. And I think the first one I didn't even make because I'm always doing a million things at one time.
You're probably in your car.
Right. But
usually in the car that talk about multitasking, talk about endless skills and talents. Like,
yes. But I have to jump in here because when we did finally talk, like from hearing from a parent and the efforts that you are doing with your organization and wanting to make sure that while your primary focus in many cases will always be your child with special needs, you still want to have a sense of understanding of where your other children fit in and how they can be best supported. And I just so commend that. And that was just hearing your heart in that just resonated with me on such a different level. And I'm choking up already. But I think about it in that way because I grew up where in the generation where my mom was a single parent, taking care of my brother, and I have another brother as well. We just didn't talk a lot about what was happening with my brother. And in many cases, it just kept me in a silo and thinking that we were the only family dealing with this until we got to a place where I had to do something and better understand not only his disability, but what the systems of supported services were. Because in many cases, my mom more or less just took in whatever was given to her by the system and not really recognizing that not only did my brother deserve to have the rights that he needed for better services, but that she also had a voice and a stake to be able to support him. And so I feel like that's where my journey really started, in just trying to understand that whole system. But I commend you so much, Janice, in just being that parent that said, I want to know more. I want to know all sides of the system. Because when I started out myself, I started out where I was trying to take pieces, I was carving out pieces and parts of that system along the way. I was trying to understand the nature of my brother's disability. I was trying to understand what it looked like for all parents. And then at some point I recognized that, hey, what about me? Like, I need something here too. And so I think that that's really how I then was able to make those connections with seeing that, oh, wow, there are things out there for me. But to Emily's point, there weren't people there that looked like me. But I continued to stay there because I knew that I had developed some really meaningful friendships. There were resources that were there, and I was able to kind of carve and pave my own way to get my voice heard and to be seen in some cases where I otherwise wouldn't have. Yeah. And I'll stop there.
Y'all know, y'all make me emotional. I can have these conversations.
Gosh, we're all gonna cry before this thing is over. So
no.
I'm just so grateful that we took a step to try something new that has never been done. Because I have not been able to find conversations that are happening like these roundtables that we're doing. And the fact that we're allowing people to join us. So our roundtables are filled with volunteers. Like, these are siblings who have been brave enough to share their stories and their truths and to hop on. And I think that's just such a powerful thing from a parent's perspective, because I don't know everything. And I know there are a lot of parents like myself that have questions, and it's like, how do we ask the right question? Like, is it the right question? Is it appropriate? How do we say these things? And in our community, as a Black woman, sometimes it's already enough that we don't know something. And we admitting that we don't know something is something that's kind of, there's a fear there to say that I don't have knowledge of this. And it's scary to admit it. And the fear of judgment, or the fear that as a parent you failed your kids. I think that's a big fear that we have. And that's why I encourage parents, this is not just a sibling roundtable for siblings to come and just talk to each other and for siblings to hear, but for parents to listen and to have a space to, like, this is the time to, like, shut it up and, like, you can just listen to hear your heart. Because we don't have all the answers, you know. So I love that. What do you guys think that, why do you think people should join us tomorrow in listening?
I think that people need to join because there's a lot at stake, honestly. I look at my mother who is getting older, and there are conversations that just even in the dynamics of our family are not had for a number of different reasons. And I find it so important. I'm in fear, I'm frustrated, but I'm also optimistic and hopeful because of the roundtables and because of the conversations that we're having and recognizing that I'm not alone in all of this. And to me, I feel like beyond the roundtables, we've talked about this offline, obviously, but I will say it here, like we have to do more. Like this to me is like a movement of a sort that is so necessary and so needed. And we really need to be able to figure out how to continue these supports. I look at myself in thinking, gee, if I ever get that phone call where I have to stop, drop, and roll and not only deal with whatever issues that could be happening with my parent, but then also with my brother who lives with my mother, like my world as I know it, it doesn't look the same anymore. And I live in that constant fear. And I feel like I wish that other parents, or parents, I should say, would understand that while that is a very daunting thing of not wanting to think about, it is so important that we have to have that conversation because it's not fair. And I sound like a pouty 2-3-year-old when I say that it's not fair, because in my head, I am like stomping up and down saying it's not fair. Like I want to be able to have that conversation, and no matter how it looks, no matter how I may have to roll up my sleeves, I want to be able to know that and accept that so that it doesn't turn into something that's resentment.
Yeah, and I would totally agree with that. And I just was reading in one of the comments, someone said, it gives me so much hope that my voice will be heard as a sibling. And I think that's so important because, it's just magic when you get siblings together. It just is like we understand each other in ways without even speaking sometimes because we have so much lived experience that's similar. And so that's like a big piece of it. And then I think about the BIPOC aspect and the initial conversations we had, the three of us, about why this is an important space for siblings of color to really shine and share their stories. And I think, we haven't had the opportunity to shine that spotlight on these siblings. And I'm sorry if you could hear my 5-year-old in the background.
It's all good.
It's live. All live.
Yeah.
Reality. I think that, for me, it's so eye-opening to recognize the similarities in the stories that we're hearing in the BIPOC sibling panels, and also to really think about how disability and race intersect to impact experience. And that's, for me, like the missing piece of it. Because I listened to Lisa's story, for example, and there's so many elements of it that are similar to my own, that putting my life on hold to make sure that my brother was, set and had services in place, and was going to be okay. But then there's a whole piece of her experience that I cannot relate to because I'm white. And she, Lisa talks about, and she'll probably, well, we haven't talked about her keynote address at this conference, but we'll do that later. When Lisa, you tell your story about, your brother and some of the things he's been through, for example, like interactions with like law enforcement, those things. I worry about my brother interacting with the police and things not going well, and, him reacting badly and a situation escalating. But, it's going to take a lot longer for his situation to get there than it will for maybe with your brother, because instantly there's a judgment based on what he looks like, based on the color of his skin. And, it's just a whole different level. And so I feel like the more we share these stories and hear about the experiences of BIPOC siblings, the better we can understand how we need to grow as a community to really truly support all siblings, and especially siblings of color, because we don't know unless we hear the stories. And then you still have that same magic of just getting siblings together. And Janice, when you moderated the first panel as a parent, you know, it was amazing. And Lisa, when you moderated the second one, from a sibling perspective, and it was on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and brought out that beautiful quote. And, you know, Richard Mullen, who I don't know if he's watching, but I watched his last one with you, Janice, and this is a hard to follow.
Amazing.
He's just an amazing human being. You know, he will be moderating tomorrow night. You know, just, and it's an amazing panel. We did a little meet and greet earlier. The reason you should come tomorrow is because these are amazing, amazing human beings, and we have so much to learn. So.
Yeah, and you will definitely resonate with their stories on so many different levels. I mean, just in our meet and greet, I mean, I was just floored. I mean, I text Emily after, so I was like, we have to give more. We have to give more than the roundtables. So necessary.
And it's cool what's coming out of this. I mean, Lisa, I don't know if you want to talk about, but there's really—
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We need to talk about it, because the roundtable is just a part of what we're doing, because Lisa, she's on the board of the Sibling Leadership Network. But what's going on at the Sibling Leadership Network this year?
Oh, nothing much. So the Sibling Leadership Network, they do a biannual conference, and this year's conference is going to be June 18th and the 19th. There will be amazing sessions that will include some of the BIPOC siblings that are part of these roundtables. In addition to the main programming on the 18th and 19th, there also will be workshops on the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. I also will have been asked and invited to be the keynote speaker for the conference. So I am very excited about that. It's definitely out of my element, but clearly for me, so many things have been, but as Emily will say, the universe is just guiding me, and I am just following through on this, because I know that from this work comes something so much more bigger and greater. And I'm just so excited for this opportunity and to just have the backing of you two and your organization. So I'm really excited about that. One of the other things I do want to mention as well is that the Sibling Leadership Network, they are definitely taking the, it's a priority for this organization to look at building on having more diversity in its organization. And what has come from that is a scholarship fund. There's an equity and inclusion scholarship fund that will be available and offered to BIPOC siblings, as well as other siblings from traditionally marginalized communities. And we are definitely wanting to increase the diversity, not only through the sessions, but also at the conference. And so the applications for this fund, as well as registration for the conference, will be available in April, early April. These things will launch, and you would be able to do this by going to siblingleadership.org to learn more. I am sure we will have an opportunity during our roundtable tomorrow to mention this as well. But definitely those that are here through the special needs siblings can reach out to Janice. I'm sure we will be posting madly about this, and promo videos and things are to follow. So very excited about that news, and hoping that everybody that is here can share it with their networks and definitely be a part of this amazing event.
Yes. 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 We're definitely going to be sharing about that. We're going to have the executive director of Sibling Leadership Network on here too one of these days. So really excited about that. She's also amazing. So we're definitely going to be doing that. And Lisa, I'm just so excited for you. Stepping out there.
It's going to be amazing.
Stepping out.
That is it. The universe. Emily is all about the universe. Like, she is a believer. She's made me a believer.
You know, serious ways, all I have to say.
She does not play.
This connection that we've made, it's been so it's just like my favorite part of every week that we get to meet. Like it's just my favorite part of everything. And I'm so excited, because I think it's a springboard. It's just a launching pad to other good things. And I don't know, like we said, like we don't know exactly where we're going or where we're headed, but we're glad we're going there together, wherever that is. So
exactly.
We're enjoying the ride though.
We're enjoying the ride. Learning
I'm
a lot.
definitely enjoying. Yeah.
I'm so enjoying this ride with you guys. Like, it's fun. I'm so glad that you guys were able to hop on here today and share. And I also want to say, you guys, that the Sibling Support Project always looking for more facilitators, and you can create sibling support SibShops in your own communities. So this is something that you definitely should be connecting, and we'll make sure that we share more about stuff like that and figuring out ways, if you're interested, to be able to connect with Emily and the Sibling Support Project, and with Lisa and the Sibling Leadership Network, and figuring out ways you guys can be at that conference in June, because it's going to be so amazing. I went to the conference 2 years ago on a scholarship, and I shared about it. You guys might not remember, but we'll bring it all back up and make sure you guys can get that information in. It's gonna be incredible. It's gonna be so awesome to see more people like myself there. Like, this is so great.
You know, thing, I know we have to end soon, but the amazing thing I think about Lisa, well, one of the many amazing things is like your perseverance, because you know, for years, you were like the only Black sibling at these meetings, you know, but you kept coming back, you know, that there was, and partially you talk about, yes, like the value that you got in those connections and the information. It really says something about you, Lisa, as a person, that you kept showing up, you know, and I feel like without that, like this wouldn't be happening. And like building bridges sometimes takes a long time, but I feel like once we're connected, we've been putting the bricks together like really fast. Like, I don't know, bricks, but you know what I mean? We're building this bridge, I think. And it's just amazing that, I mean, I really feel like you kind of paved the way for this by really just so steadfast. And I just can't thank you enough for it. And I can't thank you enough, Janice, for sending that email. Like, I was so grateful that it meant something to someone, and meant enough to someone to actually write back and take the time to like put our heads together and say, like, what can we do differently to make this better? So I just appreciate both of you so much.
Thank you so much for that, Emily. Thank you so much. Janice, I want to ask you a question. I know this is your show, but I'm just curious, as a sibling reaching out to a parent for your children, what do you hope to gain, like, from these roundtables and beyond, and just hearing the stories? I mean, your children are a lot younger, and the stories you're getting are from other siblings that are 20 and even older. Like, what lens are you looking at when you are a part of these roundtables?
I'm looking at the lens of possibility and hope, because even though my siblings are younger right now, they're hitting teen years. And so there's this big divide between us. So when I started the organization a few years ago, they were all excited and like, oh, we're going to do this. This is fun. And now they're like, Mom, I don't want to do none of this stuff. Like, I don't want to, they're like really distant, and they're going through these things, and I don't want to push them away. But I don't want to also like make them feel like they're required to be in this space. And I'm trying to learn balance as a parent, and what's the best way to navigate, especially now with this pandemic. It's been really difficult because everyone's under a quarantine, and it's a lot of they don't have their friends out there anymore. Like, they're not going to school. They've been at home for over a year, and listening to siblings share and the wide diverse, I mean, we have a big age range for the siblings that are on these roundtables. So it's like getting a glimpse into where there might be things I could do better as a parent, and better ways I can support them just emotionally and connecting with them, and not sometimes just learning to listen and not having an answer for everything, even though moms feel like we have to solve problems. I think that listening to them, because in listening to you guys share, I realized you guys are like, you guys know stuff. Like, you guys know things. Like, I think I'm either protecting or I'm like educating, and I'm like, wait, I could be learning from even my kids. Like I've started to sit down and just listen to them and ask them more questions and open up that dialogue. So I'm hoping that I'm giving them tools to succeed and making sure that, you know, should something ever even happen to me, I'm thinking of succession. I'm not thinking like this is it and we need to have these conversations. And like what Richard said last week, what does a support system look like? Like what is a real support system? And including siblings in a support system is part of that. Like you have to have these conversations. And even when I go out in the community and go out to Christian's therapies and his doctors and making sure that these conversations, the kids can ask questions, because sometimes they have questions and they haven't felt comfortable even asking them before.
Right.
And just feeling that sense of empowerment, like, oh, I'm not doing as bad of a job as I thought. Like, okay, Mom, you know, you're here, you're present. And I think sometimes as parents, we tend to feel like we're not doing enough. And there's a lot of pressure. And like, if your kids fail, it's because you failed as a parent. And if your kids fail, there's no way they can get back up again. Or if they did something wrong, where's their mom? Where's their dad? What did they do? And it's like, you know, that weight is carried, and you feel defensive, and you feel like you have to protect your house, your you know, that shame, all these things that you feel like you could have done better. And it's like, it's okay. Start now. Have the conversations now. It's not too late to salvage a relationship. It's not too late to start communicating with your child. It's not too late to reach out and extend the olive branch. It's not too late. Like if they're breathing, then you still have time. So every round table, I learned something new from you all, and it really enriches me. And I just hope that I can just continue to give that off. That was a really long answer.
No, that's good. And so much of what you said, I mean, it resonated with me in a way that I am looking at this in reverse, because my mom did not talk about a lot of these things. A lot of what you just said, it echoes on a lot of the things that she may not have knew how to communicate to me. And so it definitely helps me establish that empathy that I need to have to help myself and help her understand that she didn't know all the answers, and there was the shame and the things that came with that because she thought she was supposed to. But the system wasn't designed back in the 70s for her to know those answers, let alone know where she was supposed to go to next. So she just kind of pushed through and did the best that she knew how with what she was given. And I am so thankful for that. I mean, to have lived in those times and to have to take on those challenges and to still make sure that we were all taken care of. I mean, it's very commendable. And I try to do better at letting her know that, because I know that it's not, it was not an easy lift for her. And where I try to do better as a daughter is to, I have to protect my peace and find my balance and boundaries in it at this point in my life. But I also recognize that she's my shero. I mean, she did a lot to do the things that was necessary to take care of my brother. So thanks for saying that.
You're welcome. Oh, I love y'all. I do.
Oh.
And this is what we do, just even when we're, and then we talk about the work. Like this just feels so natural.
I know. Like how late here? How long can you guys talk? It's early here.
Right. Well, I gotta get back to work now.
My kids aren't making noise. It's fine. How long do you want to chat for?
Right. This is not so bad.
Yeah.
Fine.
Oh my gosh. Like,
thanks so much for having us here.
Thank you guys for coming on here. Thanks for coming. Like we just put this together and you guys were so flexible and just so understanding, and like just come on and just be a part of it and joining the community. And I just appreciate it, because I think that both of your voices are so incredibly valuable. And Emily, as a white woman coming in and listening, and to be take hands with us and let us know that we're not by ourselves. I mean, and not the fact that we're like this. I think that there's like this this line that people are feeling like, do I have to educate somebody? Do I have to make them, do I have to teach them about racism? Do I have to, and it's never felt like that. It's always felt extremely genuine and just, let's just have a conversation. Let's talk about it. And what can we do? And we're like solution oriented people. And I think that that's such a beautiful place to be in with somebody, is to figuring out solutions. What can we do? We're not going to solve racism in a day. Like, it's not going to be better. Like, we can't do that.
But and in a way, like, we're not trying to take that on. Like, we're trying to take it on in our own small way that hopefully will grow.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what we're doing, like, we started a fire, and like, that's what we do. And we create these sparks, and we continue these conversations, and hopefully we encourage other people to have these same conversations in their own communities, and letting people know that it's all right. Start where you can, use what you got, and make it happen. So I think I'm just so grateful for both of you just being lights in these times right now. I mean, one day it won't be no COVID and I'll be able to see y'all in person.
Yes, I know.
So
For saying that, Denise, thank you so much for having us and just walking the path with us. And what you said means everything to me. So
yeah,
love y'all.
thank you.
Well, it's 10:45. We went over a little bit. Hopefully y'all don't mind. And join us tomorrow. Join us tomorrow. Not too late to register. There's a link in the bio. Send me a message if you need it. I'll put it in there as well. We'll share it again. Please join us. Spanisha, thanks for joining us today. We cannot wait to hear you tomorrow. Richard, I saw you on here too. So yes, exciting.
Richard.
Yes. So we will definitely, I'm going to bring them back again. So they think this was their only time, but it's not. They're going to be back. We're going to have these conversations. Yeah. All right. Well, good night, everybody. You all have a wonderful
night.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Take care. Bye. Thank you.